Kenny, a city boy, decided to embrace country life and bought a donkey from an old farmer for $100. The farmer promised to deliver the donkey the next day. The following morning, the farmer arrived with bad news. "Sorry, son, but the donkey died." Kenny frowned. "Well, just give me my money back." "Can't do that," the farmer said. "I already spent it." Kenny thought for a moment. "All right then, just unload the donkey." Puzzled, the farmer asked, "What are you going to do with a dead donkey?" "I'm going to raffle him off," Kenny replied confidently. "You can't raffle off a dead donkey," the farmer exclaimed. "Sure I can," Kenny said. "I just won't tell anyone he's dead." A few weeks later, the farmer ran into Kenny and curiously asked, "So what happened with that dead donkey?" Kenny grinned. "I raffled him off, sold 500 tickets for $2 each, and made a profit of $898. The farmer was shocked. "Didn't anyone complain?" "Just the guy who won," Kenny said. "So I gave him his $2 back." A man was in his front yard mowing grass when his attractive blonde neighbor came out of the house and went straight to the mailbox. She opened it, then slammed it shut, and stormed back into the house. A little later, she came out of her house again, went to the mailbox, and again opened it and slammed it shut again. Angrily, back into the house she went. As the man was getting ready to edge the lawn, she came out again, marched to the mailbox, opened it, and then slammed it closed harder than ever. Puzzled by her actions, the man asked her, "Is something wrong?" To which she replied, "There certainly is. My stupid computer keeps saying, 'You've got mail.'"
A woman tells her plastic surgeon that she wanted her lips reduced in size because they had become too loose and floppy.
Out of embarrassment, she insisted that the surgery be kept a secret, and the surgeon agreed. Awakening from the anesthesia after the surgery, she found 3 roses carefully placed beside her on the bed. Outraged, she immediately calls in the doctor. "I thought I asked you not to tell anyone about my operation." The surgeon told her he had carried out her wish for confidentiality and that the first rose was from him. "I felt sad because you went through this all by yourself." "The second rose is from my nurse. She assisted me in the surgery and understood because she had the same procedure done some time ago." "And what about the third rose?" she asked. "That's from a man, John Defoe, upstairs in the Burns unit. He wanted to thank you for his 2 new ears." A man walks into a bar with a paper bag in his hand. He sits down and places the bag on the counter. The bartender walks up and asks, "What's in the bag?" The man reaches into the bag and pulls out a little man about 12 inches in height and sets him on the counter. He reaches back into the bag and pulls out a small piano, setting it on the counter as well. He reaches back into the bag again and pulls out a tiny piano bench. The little man sits at the piano and starts playing a beautiful piece by Mozart. "Where on earth did you get that?" asks the surprised bartender. The man responds by reaching into the paper bag once more. This time, he pulls out a magic lamp. He hands it to the bartender and says, "Here, rub it." So the bartender rubs the lamp, and suddenly there's a gust of smoke and a beautiful genie is standing before him. "I will grant you one wish, but just one." The bartender gets really excited and without hesitation says, "I want $1,000,000. A few moments later, a duck walks into the bar. Then another duck and another. Pretty soon the entire bar is filled with ducks, and they keep coming. The bartender turns to the man and says, "You know, I think your genie is a little deaf. I asked for $1,000,000, not 1,000,000 ducks." The man replies, "Do you really think I asked for a 12-inch pianist?" Nanga. In the supermarket, a woman watched a grandfather and his badly behaved grandson with growing admiration. The child screamed for sweets and biscuits, yet the granddad remained calm. "Easy, William, we won't be long." "Easy, boy," he said soothingly. At the checkout, the chaos continued. The little terror of a child threw items out of the trolley, but the granddad's composure never wavered. William, relax, buddy. Don't get upset. Don't get upset. We'll be home in 5 minutes. Stay cool, William. Keep your cool, William. Outside, the woman approached the grandfather. I know it's none of my business, but you were amazing in there. William is very lucky to have you as his granddad. The old man smiled widely and then chuckled. Thanks, but I am William. This little guy's name is Kevin. Einde. Little Johnny was always the target of the neighborhood boys' teasing. Their favorite trick was to offer him a choice between a nickel and a dime. Johnny always took the nickel, making them laugh at how dumb he was. One day, after watching this happen again, a kind neighbor pulled Johnny aside. Johnny, don't you know a dime is worth more than a nickel, even though the nickel is bigger? Johnny flashed a mischievous grin. Of course, I know that. But if I took the dime, they'd stop playing the game, and so far I've made $20. Ade. 3 men died in a car accident and arrived at the pearly gates, where they were greeted by Jesus himself. The Lord said, I will ask each of you a simple question. If you tell the truth, I will welcome you into heaven. But if you lie, awaits. Turning to the first man, the Lord asked, How many times did you cheat on your wife? The man stood tall and replied, Lord, I was a faithful husband. I never cheated. Very good, the Lord said. For your loyalty, you shall have a grand mansion and a limousine for transportation. Then the Lord asked the second man, And how about you? The second man hesitated before admitting, Lord, I cheated on my wife twice. The Lord nodded. You may enter, but for your unfaithfulness, you will receive a 4-bedroom house and a BMW. Finally, the Lord turned to the third man. And you? The man sighed and said, Lord, I cheated about 8 times. The Lord frowned slightly but said, I will still allow you in, but you will get a 1-room apartment and a Yugo for transportation. A few hours later, the second and third men found the first man sobbing. Why are you crying? They asked. You got the mansion and the limo. Through his tears, the first man choked out, I just saw my wife, and she was riding a skateboard. Sat de Shumlov. 3 mischievous grandmas were sitting on a bench outside of their nursing home, laughing their heads off like giggling girls. Now, ladies, a nurse said, walking past them. You need to get your sunshine time before tea, and behave. Her words only set them off again. Soon, they spotted an old man walking by and decided to have a bit of fun with him. We bet we can tell exactly how old you are, one of the grandmas yelled out at him. The old man scoffed. There's no way that you can guess it, you 3 old fools. Sure we can, another grandma insisted. Just drop your pants and we can tell your exact age. What? He exclaimed. Embarrassed but intrigued, the old man dropped his pants, the sunlight shining on his bottom. The grandmas stared and whispered among themselves, and then said in unison, You're 91 years old. How in the world did you guess? The old man asked, shocked. The grandmas snickered and replied, Because we were at your birthday party yesterday, one grandma said as the other 2 collapsed into giggles again. Yet. At an airline ticket counter, all of the ticket agents were doing their best to politely process each passenger as quickly as they could. A man at the end of the passenger line was impatient and frustrated at having to wait so long in the slow-moving line. He finally decided to march up to the counter to demand that he be given his boarding pass. The ticket agent turned and said, Sir, as you can see, there are many passengers ahead of you. We are doing our best to process the passengers as fast as we can. I'm afraid you'll have to get back in line. Outraged and red in the face, the man yelled at the ticket agent, Do you know who I am? The ticket agent turned, picked up the public address system microphone and said calmly, There is a man at the ticket counter who does not know who he is. Anyone who may be able to identify this man is asked to please step forward and identify him. Thank you. 9. A teacher asks her class to use the word contagious in a sentence. Sally, the class genius, raises her hand and says, "Last year I got the mumps and my mom said it was contagious." "Very good," says the teacher. "Would anyone else like to try?" Little Johnny raises his hand and stands to give his answer. "Our mean next-door neighbor was painting her house by hand and my dad said it would take the contagious." Without fail, George went for his annual checkup every year. He prided himself on staying fit and healthy by going on walks in the neighborhood, though age had taken its toll on his eyesight. After his checkup, George sat and chattered with his doctor, proudly telling Dr. Stevens about his latest discovery. "Doc, I'm blessed," he said. "God knows my eyesight is going, so he puts on the light when I pee and turns it off when I'm done." The doctor chuckled, but a nagging curiosity led him to call George's wife later that day. "Maria," he said, "your husband's test results are just fine, but he said something strange. He claims that God turns the lights on and off for him when he uses the bathroom at night." George's wife laughed out loud. "That old fool! He's been peeing in the refrigerator again. I thought it was the dog." Joe and Wanda lived in a cozy city apartment, and they found themselves in a bit of a bind one lazy Sunday afternoon. They wanted a little privacy, but their 10-year-old son was home, and the walls in their apartment were thin. After a bit of brainstorming, they came up with a plan. They decided to send their son out to the balcony with the mission of being their spy for the afternoon. His job? To report on all the exciting happenings in the neighborhood. They figured it would keep him occupied for a bit and maybe even amuse him. Their son didn't hesitate, excited to be the neighborhood reporter. "There's a dog barking over at the Johnsons' house," he called out, looking down at the street. "Someone's washing their car," he added with a grin. After a few moments of silence, he piped up again. "The Millers are putting up a new fence," he observed. "Oh, and the Pattersons just brought home a pizza." Wanda and Joe exchanged a satisfied look as they began to carry out their plan. Then came a pause, followed by a very loud announcement. "Mom, Dad, you won't believe this. The Smith's kid is standing on the balcony with binoculars." Joe froze. "What? How do you know that?" The boy replied, matter-of-factly, "Because he's watching us." Paniranda, 3 elderly sisters aged 82, 84, and 86 lived together. One night, the 86-year-old drew a bath. She put her foot in and then paused. After a few moments, she yelled down the stairs. "Was I getting in or out of the bath?" The 84-year-old yelled back. "I don't know. I'll come up and see," she said. She started walking up the stairs and paused. "Was I going up the stairs or down?" Finally, the 82-year-old sitting at the kitchen table having tea shook her head. "I sure hope I never get that forgetful," she said. She knocked on wood for good measure and then yelled. "I'll come up and help both of you as soon as I see who's at the door." Padimundre. Jack's mother rushed into the bedroom when she heard him scream. There, she found his 2-year-old sister yanking at his hair. Gently, she pried her little fingers loose and comforted Jack, saying, There, sweetie. She didn't mean to hurt you. She doesn't know that pulling hair is painful." Just as she left the room, the baby's scream pierced the air. Startled, she quickly ran back in. "What happened?" she asked, concern in her voice. Jack, rubbing his own head, looked up and said with a grin, "She knows now."
Jenna and Mike met at a mutual friend's barbecue. They clicked over a shared love of grilled pineapple and mutual hatred of mosquitoes. From there, it was weekend hikes, brunches with funny-shaped pancakes, and eventually binge-watching crime documentaries on the couch. You know, the modern mating ritual. After several months of dating, exactly 7 months and 3 days, but who's counting? Jenna. They're driving home from a friend's engagement party. Jenna, staring out the window, suddenly says with a dreamy smile, "Can you believe this is our 200th day together?" Mike tightens his grip on the steering wheel, not because he's panicking. No. He's just trying to remember if he left the garden hose running. Silence fills the car. Jenna notices. He's quiet. Too quiet. Her thoughts start to spiral. He forgot. He didn't even flinch. Does this relationship mean nothing to him? Am I the only one who notices things like this? Maybe he's emotionally unavailable. Or worse, maybe he's emotionally constipated. Meanwhile, Mike is thinking, did I lock the back gate before we left? I'm 80% sure. Wait, no, 70%. Dang it, should have just gotten that smart lock Jenna kept talking about. Jenna's heart sinks. Oh God, he's probably regretting the whole thing. 7 months is the classic bailout point. Is he trying to find the words to end it gently? Is he planning a speech? Should I start it to soften the blow? Mike's inner monologue. If the gate's open, the neighbor's cat might get in again. I swear. If it pees in my tool shed one more time, I'm calling animal control. Jenna clears her throat. Mike, do you ever think about the future? Mike snaps out of his canvas shed debate. Huh? Future? Yeah, sure. Like self-driving cars and stuff? Jenna looks wounded. No, I mean our future, like where we're going. Mike, now sweating slightly, is mentally flipping through his mental Rolodex of safe things to say when your girlfriend suddenly gets deep. He lands on, totally. I think about that all the time. You do? Jenna whispers, touched. Mike, encouraged, adds, yeah, I mean, we're on a journey, right? A road with milestones and stuff. Jenna's heart leaps. He's using metaphors. He's growing emotionally. This is progress. Mike, internally, nailed it. Journey, milestones, very relationshipy words. I deserve a cookie. She reaches over and gently holds his hand. Mike, I'm so glad we had this talk. Mike smiles, relieved. Crisis averted. Whatever just happened, I think I passed the test. Probably. They arrive at Jenna's apartment. She kisses him goodnight with unusual tenderness. That night, Jenna journals for an hour, reflecting on their growth, his maturity, the metaphor he used, and the road they're walking together. She even Googles milestone relationship gifts. Mike goes home, orders a used lawn chair online, and spends 45 minutes reading reviews about hose timers. A faint thought crosses his mind. Did I agree to something tonight? Hope not. Probably just talked about that cat again. The next day, Jenna tells her best friend every word of the conversation. Together, they dissect it like scientists studying an ancient scroll, convinced they've uncovered emotional gold. He said milestones, Sarah. That's practically a proposal. Meanwhile, Mike texts his buddy Kia. Bro, what's a good cat deterrent spray? And that, dear reader, is the difference between men and women.